Pursuant to Clause 1C of Rule 19, further consideration of H.R. 2250 will now resume. The clerk will report the title.
Union Calendar Number 146, H.R. 2250, a bill to provide additional time for the Administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency to issue achievable standards for industrial, commercial, and institutional boilers, process heaters, and incinerators, and for other purposes.
The House will be in order. Will members please take your conversations off the floor? The House will be in order. Will members please take your conversations off the floor? Will members please clear the well? The House will be in order. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Florida rise?
Madam Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
The gentlewoman will suspend. The House will be in order. Will members please take your conversations off the floor? Is the gentlewoman opposed to the bill?
I am opposed.
The gentlewoman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion.
Ms. Castor of Florida moves to recommit the bill, H.R. 2250, to the Committee on Energy and Commerce with instructions to report the same to the House forthwith with the following amendment. At the end of the bill, add the following sections. Section 6, protection of seniors from life-threatening air pollution. Notwithstanding any other provision of this Act, the Administrator shall not delay actions pursuant to the rule identified in Section 2B3 of this Act to reduce air pollution from waste incinerators as defined pursuant to this Act, where such waste incinerators are within 5 miles of any nursing home, assisted living facility, or hospital. Section 7, notification to communities. With respect to each requirement from a major source facility to implement an air pollution control or emissions reduction that is eliminated by this Act, such facility shall provide notice of such elimination to affected communities not later than 90 days after the date of enactment of this Act.
The House will be in order. The gentlewoman from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the debate on the GOP pollution bills has been very heated at times. The debate has exposed very divergent views between the parties here in Congress on the importance of clean air and on the value of good health for all Americans. But despite our differences on how we treat air pollution, my amendment offers us an opportunity to come together on a bipartisan basis, specifically to protect the health of our older neighbors, America's seniors. The passage of my amendment will not prevent passage of the underlying bill. If the amendment is adopted, it will be incorporated into the bill, and the bill will proceed to a vote.
The gentlewoman suspend. The gentleman is correct. The House is not in order. Will members please take your conversations off the floor?
Madam Speaker, the amendment I offer today will ensure that we respect the health of our older neighbors, our parents, and our grandparents by protecting the quality of the air that they breathe. Seniors are more susceptible than others to the harmful impacts of dirty air and pollution, and our neighbors need to understand what is in the air that they breathe. So my amendment proposes to do two things. One, require waste incinerators located within 5 miles of a nursing home, assisted living facility, or hospital to simply use the most effective pollution control methods available. And two, to require polluting boilers to notify surrounding communities of toxic emissions. Without my amendment, the GOP bill will cause a dramatic increase in the emissions of mercury, dioxins, sulfur dioxide near populations that are particularly vulnerable to pollution. Now, Madam Speaker, the Clean Air Act protects us all from some of the most carcinogenic and dangerous pollutants. Mercury damages the developing brain and reduces IQ and the ability to learn. Sulfur dioxide is known to interfere with breathing and as a result is especially harmful to seniors. Some seniors are so sensitive to dirty air and pollution they require oxygen tanks to aid their breathing. And a variety of health conditions afflicting seniors are aggravated by poor air quality. Any increase in hazardous pollution will disproportionately harm our older neighbors at a time in their lives when they are at their most vulnerable. We can save lives, we can save money by requiring these waste incinerators that are located near our older neighbors to use the most effective pollution control methods available. When it comes to the health and health care costs for older Americans, my colleagues, we've got to be smarter. It is not wise to aggravate the respiratory ailments of our older neighbors who likely are on Medicare. Just as it is not wise for the GOP to advocate for ending Medicare as we know it. It doesn't save any money. The nonpartisan CBO explained that the GOP plan to dismantle Medicare would simply shift costs to seniors without addressing underlying issues. And actually, the GOP pollution bills here can be viewed as handing our parents, our grandparents, and our older neighbors higher medical bills tied to dirtier air. So let's be smart. Let's ensure that waste incinerators located in areas where our seniors live use the most effective pollution controls. Other industries have done it, and this small industrial subset should not receive a special interest carve-out. And, Madam Speaker, while our older neighbors would be disproportionately affected by this GOP bill in its current form, they are not the only ones. Young people and pregnant women are also extremely vulnerable to an increase in toxic emissions that this GOP bill promotes. And this Congress has a duty to prevent such harm from happening when the evidence is so clear. One sure way that we can help our families take adequate steps to protect themselves and their children is to ensure they're fully aware of the dangers that they face from specific pollution sources. So this amendment also requires large boilers to notify their local communities of emissions that are likely to increase because of this GOP bill. That way, families can take adequate steps to protect their children from mercury, dioxins, particulates, and sulfur dioxide. And this information will also enable our local communities to make determinations on where to locate playgrounds and schools. We should ensure that our...
The gentleman is correct. The House is not in order.
Madam Speaker, we must ensure that our families and communities have all the information they need to make the best decisions for the health of their children and a complete understanding of the location and scale of the threat posed by air pollution. So, Madam Speaker, the GOP bill blocks critical health protections against air pollution. The EPA estimates that the GOP's anti-clean air bills together mean over 30,000 more premature deaths, over 19,000 additional heart attacks, and over 200,000 asthma attacks that otherwise would have been prevented. And we shouldn't let it happen.
The gentlewoman's time has expired.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I will close by asking that in the spirit of the original bipartisan adoption of the Clean Air Act 40 years ago, we come together on a bipartisan basis to adopt this important amendment to protect the health of our seniors and children all across America.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky rise? For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky rise?
I rise to claim time in opposition to the motion to recommit.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Back in 2004, the D.C. Federal Court of Appeals, in a court decision, invalidated the 2004 Boiler Act rules promulgated by EPA. And in that court decision, EPA came to the court and said, we need additional time to come out with new Boiler Act rules.
And the House is not in order. Will members please take your conversations off the floor?
Okay.
The gentleman is recognized.
So in that court decision, EPA made the argument that they needed additional time to come forth with a more balanced approach on a Boiler Act rule. Our legislation, H.R. 2250, does nothing that EPA did not ask the court to do as far as extending time. Our legislation is a balanced approach, particularly at this time of a weakened economy and job unemployment rate at 9.1%, and our economy continues to struggle. It's imperative that we have a balanced regulation that considers jobs, yes, but also considers health care and the benefits of the regulation and the impact that has on health care. We've had extensive hearings on this legislation. We've had representatives from hospitals, we've had representatives from universities, representatives from manufacturers, industrial users, and others, and all of them almost universally have asked that we pass 2250 to provide a more balanced approach in these regulations. Testimony has shown that over 230,000 jobs are at risk if EPA moves forward with these regulations. So what we're proposing in our legislation is we give EPA 15 months to come forth with a new regulation. We then say that they need at least a minimum of, that the industries and hospitals and schools need a minimum of 5 years to comply with those regulations. And I will never forget the University of Notre Dame came and indicated that they had spent $20 million trying to comply with the old regulations, and now that they're going to have to come forth with additional funds to comply with these new regulations. So all we're doing is we're protecting jobs, we're protecting the health care of the American people. We give the EPA 15 months to come forth with new rules, 5 years at a minimum to comply. And for that reason, I think it's imperative that we adopt our legislation, and I would urge every member to oppose this motion to recommit. And I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. Without objection, the previous question is ordered. The question is on the motion to recommit. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The noes have it.
Madam Speaker,
For what? Gentlewoman from Florida is recognized.
older Americans would like a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, the Chair will reduce to 5 minutes the minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of passage. This is a 15-minute vote.
The last chance to change the bill that would block EPA regulations on mercury and other emissions from industrial boilers and incinerators. The House has been debating this bill since last week. Senate Republicans have come out with legislation aimed at creating jobs by overhauling the nation's tax laws, cutting business rules, and boosting offshore oil exploration. The Washington Post writing that the GOP jobs bill is designed to offer a conservative vision for improving the economy and counter President Obama's insistence that congressional Republicans have rejected his ideas for job growth without offering any of their own. Here's the briefing with Senate Republicans.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here with many of my colleagues this afternoon on this very important issue. I'd especially like to thank Congressman Rand Paul, as well as Senator Rand Paul and Senator Rob Portman. I wish it was a Congressman Rand Paul, yes. I want to thank both of them for their hard work on this issue, as well as some 20 other Republican colleagues of ours in the United States Senate who have made input and whose legislation is part of this piece of legislation. I'm not going to go through all the details of the legislation. They have handouts as to what they are. But we're announcing the introduction of the Jobs Through Growth Act. This bill will serve as a blueprint to bring our country back economically, create jobs, and give Americans hope again for the future. Now, obviously, President Obama has his plan. There is a dramatic difference between ours and his, because President Obama and my friends on the other side of the aisle in the Senate believe that they can create jobs through government spending. We believe that we can create jobs through growth. They believe that government creates and spending creates jobs. We believe business and growth creates jobs in America. So, in all due respect to the President, his plan, we've seen that movie before. We saw it in 2009 when they said if you enact this stimulus bill, maximum unemployment would be 8%. We saw when they said if you enact this stimulus bill that you will have millions of jobs created. Well, we know what the economic situation is today. So, again, I want to thank all of my colleagues that are here. And I want to briefly mention some of the highlights, and they will mention others. We strongly believe that if we're going to restore this nation's economy, we have to have a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. We need to give any President of the United States a line-item veto, now called an enhanced rescission authority. We need to create a simplified tax system to keep more money in the hands of consumers. We need to have a reduction in corporate taxes from 35 to 25, and have the Finance Committee report out and closing loopholes and giving Americans 3 tax brackets and a fair tax code. We need to bring home the $1.4 trillion that's sitting overseas, which won't come home because the fact is that we have the highest corporate tax in the world. We need regulatory reform. Every time I talk to business people, as short a time ago as last night, and they are sitting on money, and they are not investing, and they aren't creating jobs because of the total uncertainty about their future. They don't know when the next regulation is coming down, which will cause them to be unable to do what they want to do, and that is to create jobs and a better lives for them and their families. We need to reform and repeal and replace Obamacare. We need to have a moratorium on all new federal regulations. Place a moratorium on it so that people, businesses large and small, can have a predictable future. And finally, we need to lift all these crazy prohibitions on the offshore energy exploration, which would immediately create tens of thousands of jobs. So there are many other provisions. There's some 24 provisions to this bill. Probably my favorite of all, Senator Johans will talk about, and that is the Farm Dust Regulation Prevention Act. So we have the Balanced Budget Amendment down and including the Farm Dust Act that Senator Johans is far more familiar being from Nebraska than I am. So I want to ask Rand Paul to say a few words, and my colleagues who will make brief remarks, and then we will respond to questions. Again, it's been a great pleasure working with Senator Paul.
I've only been here a few short months, but so far my understanding of legislative strategy, pass it now, is probably not a great strategy for trying to get a jobs bill through. We have a Republican jobs bill that we're introducing today, and we consider this to be a conversation. If the President would like to come and talk to us about our jobs plan and have a reasonable discussion, not just campaign rhetoric, not just take it or leave it, this is my jobs bill, we don't think that that's very constructive. We want to have a constructive conversation with him. We do have a different vision for how we create jobs. As Senator McCain said, we believe that the private marketplace creates jobs. We also believe that lowering tax rates could create an economic boom. Under Ronald Reagan, we had dramatic lowering of marginal tax rates, and we had economic growth of 6 and 7% in a couple of the years of the Reagan administration. You will get rid of joblessness and unemployment when your economy grows again. We think our package can create over 5 million jobs. We are ready to discuss it with the President, and we welcome having him come down. I'd like to introduce Senator Portman, who's a lot of this legislation is based on a jobs plan that he was instrumental in putting together.
Thanks, Rand, and thanks, John. And Senator McCain's done a great job of talking about some of the specifics in this jobs proposal. But let me just try to put it in general terms. This is a pro-growth proposal to create the environment for jobs. And that's as opposed to the short-term sweetener approach of the Obama administration that simply hasn't worked. So we recognize that we need to address this problem in a way that actually puts people back to work by changing some of the structural problems in our economy. We understand that this is not going to be done by short-term sweeteners. It's going to be done by facing up to the serious economic problems we face. And that means we have to reform our tax code, provide regulatory relief to our small businesses, do something to ensure that investors, job creators, and businesses have an incentive to invest and grow jobs. And I'm proud to stand here with my colleagues and proud to say that, this proposal, if enacted, would be the kind of thing on a bipartisan basis that would help get our economy back on its feet. Yesterday, for the first time in a while, you saw a bipartisan vote. And it was for one of the elements of this jobs plan. And that was to say, on a bipartisan basis, to American exporters and American workers and farmers and service providers, we're going to open new markets for you. So you can, through private sector, free market approaches, sell more of your products, sell more of your services, and create jobs in this country. By the President's own metrics, those 3 trade agreements will create over 250,000 new jobs. That's the sort of thing we ought to be doing in other areas that are outlined in this jobs plan. So I'm hopeful that the administration and Democrats on the Hill will work with us, as they did yesterday, to move this economy forward and put people back to work.
The elements for creating jobs are available in this country. Right now we're spending too much, borrowing too much, regulating too much, and taxing too much. We can fix that with the jobs proposal that we are supporting here today. This is the Republican alternative. It is very important that we open our energy industry. There are thousands of jobs that are moving overseas because we have a basic moratorium on drilling for energy that is in our country's control. We will change that with this bill. When I talk to small business people in my state and throughout the country, the thing that's scaring them to death about hiring is the health care and what is happening in our health care system with the rates of insurance going up in anticipation of this big new tax increase, this big new spending increase that is not going to improve the quality of health care in our country. So we have the elements to fix this problem. Unfortunately, the President's plan does nothing new. Ours is the way to go. Thank you.
Well, the President's plan creates jobs, temporary jobs. Our plan creates policies that allow for economic growth, and jobs follow from that economic growth. This plan that has been put together, thank all those who put so much time and effort into it, is a growth-oriented plan to get people back to work and get our economy moving again. One of the components of people say, can you get bipartisan support? One of the major components of this is comprehensive tax reform. Senator Wyden and I, a Democrat, Republican, have introduced a plan which incorporates a lot of our provisions into this comprehensive tax reform. It can gain bipartisan support. It can also provide growth that we have seen and has been tried and tested in the past. In 1986, the last time we had comprehensive tax reform, it was a bipartisan effort on the part of Bill Bradley, President Reagan, Democrats and Republicans working together. Followed that, 6.3 million new jobs came through the private sector, not through the public sector. So whether it's this, repatriation, or a number of other provisions that are in here, line item veto, those have gained Democrat support in the past. This can be a bipartisan effort to create the growth that will create the jobs for the future.
the President and the Democrats have tried to create jobs by government spending. And despite suffocating debt, they've resisted even nominal spending cuts and have insisted on higher taxes for more revenues. The Republican plan, which should really be called the American plan because it is based on free enterprise principles, is the way to create more tax revenues. If we look at any historical analysis, the more you raise taxes over time, the less revenue you get. But if the Democrats and the President want more tax revenue, which will help us reduce our debt, this is a growth plan which will not only grow jobs, but it will grow the amount of revenue that we bring in at the federal level. And so we insist that the President work with us. He's got to stop campaigning around the country saying to vote for a bill now that Harry Reid will not even allow on the floor. This is a bill that can pass if the Democrats will open their eyes and work with us.
Some order of appearance.
Could you all state your names?
Oh, sure. I'm Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. I've actually been an owner of a manufacturing company for the last 31 years. I've been a job creator. I think it's pretty obvious if you talk to business people, the reason they're not willing to expand their business is because of the high level of uncertainty and the lack of confidence in terms of increasing demand for their product. And I'd say an awful lot of the blame for that rests with this President's agenda. You know, President Obama came into a pretty tough economic situation, but he has taken us in 180 degrees wrong direction. So from my standpoint, if we really want to get our economy growing again, the first step we should take is to totally repeal his agenda. Repeal the Obamacare, repeal Dodd-Frank, repeal all these harmful regulations. And I want to commend Senator McCain and Senator Paul and Senator Portman for their leadership on this issue. What I like about this jobs program, it has a number of different pieces of legislation. I certainly came to Washington willing to work with anybody who's willing to seriously address the problems this nation faces. And this piece of legislation, all the components, give us an opportunity to seek out the areas where we agree and actually start passing the components that will actually set us on a path toward economic growth. So thank you.
Gosh, even with that entree, I'm going to resist the temptation to dive deep into the dust legislation, but I do want to say a couple of things. All of us do business roundtables. We sit down with our business community in our respective states and we talk to them about what's happening. Frequent question I ask is, how is business? How are you doing? When we ask the question to our job creators, to our business community, what's holding you back? What is there going on that is making the difference between you expanding and hiring and bringing new people into your business and just staying put? Invariably, they'll start working their way through the bad policy that exists out there. They'll talk about the regulatory effort. I will leave this series of votes that's coming up. I'll sit down with a group of small business people from Nebraska to talk about OSHA regulations that are just crushing them in the home building industry. If there was ever an industry where we need to try to give them a lift, that would be it. I go out and I talk to small business people or farmers and ranchers. Immediately they turn to the EPA. I had one woman who sat in a business roundtable. She said, you know, Mike, I have 47, 48 employees. I've studied this health care bill every way I can, and I have decided I will not ever grow my business past 50, even though I could add employees now. She said, I don't want to deal with this health care bill. And that's exactly what has happened here. So what this legislation
does... Yeas are 170, the nays 246. The motion is not adopted. The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it.
It's requested. The gentleman from where? How'd they do it? It's a little stumbling.
The gentleman from Vermont is recognized.
Request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. Those favoring a recorded vote will rise. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
The last vote of the day on final passage of a bill that would block EPA regulations on mercury and other emissions from industrial boilers and incinerators. Tomorrow, the House debates a bill to limit EPA regulations on coal waste and shift more oversight to the states. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta and new Joint Chiefs Chairman Martin Dempsey talked about their budget priorities before the House and Senate, the House Armed Services Committee today. Secretary Panetta telling lawmakers that the Pentagon's budget should not be reduced by more than the initial plan to cut $450 billion over the next 10 years. The chairman of the committee, Buck McKeon, and the ranking Democrat, Adam Smith, both wrote letters to the Deficit Reduction Committee, also saying that the committee should not cut more from defense. You can see the testimony and the Republican briefing on this after the House is out here on C-SPAN, and right now at cspan.org. And tomorrow, the House continues its investigation of Solyndra, the California solar panel manufacturer that went bankrupt after receiving a $535 million loan guarantee from the government. The House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Oversight meets at 9:30 a.m. Eastern with live coverage on C-SPAN 2.
275 and the nays are 142. The bill is passed without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Hit it loud. The House will be in order. The chair is prepared to entertain 1-minute request. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise? Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The motto inscribed on the prisoners of war missing in action flag reads, "You are not forgotten." I rise today to honor Major Thomas E. Clark, a U.S. soldier who served in Vietnam, an airman who gave his life defending this country. Originally from Emporium, Pennsylvania, Major Clark studied at Penn State before being accepted into the Air Force Academy and graduating in 1963. In 1969, while flying an F-100 in a mission over Laos, Major Clark's aircraft was hit by enemy fire. The plane went crashing into the jungle canopy. The wreckage was not found, and Major Clark was missing in action for 4 years, when in 1973 the Air Force determined Clark was killed in action, body not recovered. In 1991, some of the wreckage of the F-150 was found. Finally, in 2009, an investigation found the remains of Major Clark. Next week, the Air Force will bring home Major Clark to Emporium, Pennsylvania, to have him properly laid to rest in his family's plot. I'm truly proud and honored to recognize his bravery, and I thank him for making the ultimate sacrifice for this country. He will not be forgotten. Major Clark, may you rest in peace. Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Are there further 1-minute requests? For what purpose does the gentleman from Minnesota rise?
For 1 minute, 5 seconds.
Without objection.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to congratulate Wayzata West Middle School math teacher Seth Brown on winning the 2011 Milken Educator Award. Seth was honored by the Milken Family Foundation for his efforts to close the achievement gap and use creative technology in the classroom, particularly in using iPods as math aids. Now, this award is known as the Oscars of Teaching. The Milken Family Foundation gives it to these outstanding teachers with a $25,000 award with no strings attached. Seth plans to use this money to help pay his graduate school bills, as well as donating some of the money to the local PTA, which was a strong supporter of his use of technology in the classroom. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate Seth Brown on his achievement and for also being an outstanding teacher. And to Seth and all the other teachers who are out there, I want to thank you for doing what you do in educating and inspiring the next generation of American leaders. I yield back.
Back. Further request for 1 minute. Under the Speaker's announced policy of January 5, 2011, the gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Ellison, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the minority leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I'm Congressman Keith Ellison. We're claiming this hour on behalf of the Progressive Caucus, which tonight is going to feature a number of critical issues, all focusing on the importance of the rights of women and the assault they have been under in this Congress. To lead off our hour and to get started, I first want to introduce a good colleague from the great state of California, Oakland, California, who's going to lead off our hour. Congresswoman Barbara Lee has been a champion of the rights of all people. She's been a champion for peace and justice around the world, and she has been an unswerving champion for civil and human rights for women, but for all people around the world. So let me first recognize, on behalf of this special order hour, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Congresswoman Lee, I yield the floor to you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank our chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus for yielding and for your amazing leadership on so many tough issues that we're dealing with. And tonight we're joining with the Congressional Pro-Choice Caucus, of which I'm also a member, and so I'm very pleased to be down here with my colleagues to discuss this critical issue. A very sad day, quite frankly, for women in this country, and especially for poor women, for African-American women, for women of color. This bill, which was passed today, is really just the newest attack in what I have been calling from day one the Republican war on women. Today, instead of focusing on ways to find jobs for Americans, the Republicans are focusing on eliminating family planning programs, undercutting women's right to choose, and returning our country, unfortunately, to the days of back alley abortions, which I remember very well. H.R. 358, the Protect Life Act, can you believe that? Protect Life Act, forces coverage for women to be dropped from state exchanges, which will cut off millions of women from affordable, comprehensive health care. In fact, this bill makes it virtually impossible for any health care plan to offer abortion coverage and allows hospitals to refuse to provide life-saving care to a woman who needs an abortion to protect her own life. This is unprecedented, and it should have been rejected on this floor. This legislation really, though, is part of a coordinated nationwide war on women. Just last week, the Republican-controlled House Foreign Affairs Committee voted to defund the United Nations Population Fund, an organization that supports life-saving activities for women and families in post-conflict and disaster situations. And before that, the very same committee voted to reinstate the global gag rule, which prevents health care providers from even discussing or offering comprehensive health services to women and girls. This affects women and girls in sub-Saharan Africa who bear the brunt of the global AIDS pandemic. And of course, as usual, the Republicans have targeted Planned Parenthood, putting increased requirements of how this nonprofit, which provides affordable health care to low-income women, black women, women of color, Latino women, Asian Pacific American women, if Planned Parenthood wants to receive federal funding, they have to stop, mind you, providing women reproductive health choices, which really is only a tiny percentage of what Planned Parenthood offers to women. Sadly, it does not end there. It's nothing less than shocking that after holding the fiscal year 2011 budget hostage over their controversial policy proposals, the anti-choice leaders in the House seem eager to pick up some of the very same fights once again this year. The Republican appropriations bill continued this attack on women's reproductive health by eliminating Title X, the nation's family planning program, defunding Planned Parenthood, cutting funding for science-based teenage pregnancy prevention initiatives, prevention, mind you, and redirecting those funds into failed abstinence-only programs, and the list goes on. So let's just return to the battle, though, that took place today. In putting forward this very divisive bill, Republicans made the false claim that the Affordable Care Act needs to be amended to ensure that United States taxpayer dollars are not used to fund abortions. The fact of the matter is, that's very disingenuous, and it's just wrong, and it's really amazing that that argument could even be put out there, because the fact is the Hyde Amendment has been in effect for decades, since 1976, and the Affordable Care Act continues the Hyde Amendment policy, despite my personal view that it should be overturned. The Republicans continue to invent new ways to try and erode and deny women their constitutionally guaranteed rights purely on religious beliefs and on ideology. This is a democracy. This is not a theocracy. The religious views of some, and I am a woman of faith, but I have to tell you, The religious views, the personal religious views of some, should not dictate public policy for all. I'm also aware of the fact that sometimes we as a nation, we really don't give young women and girls the right tools to prevent unintended pregnancies in the first place. The fact of the matter is, this Republican war on women and this bill will put more lives at risk, isolate us from women who have no money, who are poor, especially women of color, who have become really central targets of these efforts. Evidence of this is seen all over the country, and very recently in the form of very offensive billboards that denigrated African American women in my own district in Oakland, California, which we fought against and which were quickly taken down. Now, by using a combination, or at least trying to use a combination of law and guilt, these efforts undermine really the basic health care rights of women, African American women, low-income women, women of color. As Sister Song, Women of Color, Reproductive Choice, Justice, Collective states, black women make decisions every day about whether to parent or not just whether to give birth. Those who think they should dictate our choices won't be there when the child is born to help us fight for better education, increase child care, keep our kids out of jail, send our children to college, or get affordable health care. This war on women must stop. We cannot and we must not allow the Republicans to turn back the clock on women, on choice, and on our access to health care. So I urge my colleagues to fight this war, fight against these unnecessary and these harmful initiatives that keep coming forward, that continue to do damage to women and that continue to try to erode our basic health care and basic human rights. We need to create jobs rather than continue to deny health care to women. Thank you, Mr. Ellison, our co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, for your leadership. Once again, I want to thank you for your leadership on our jobs initiative, on each and every effort that the Congressional Black Caucus has mounted, and thank you for joining with the Congressional pro-choice caucus in our efforts to protect women and protect our basic rights. Thank you.
Well, let me thank the gentlelady from California, Barbara Lee, fearless, unrelenting struggler for the rights of all people. Tonight, we're here with the Progressive Caucus. We're talking about the harm that H.R. 358 would do to women's rights. It would hurt the rights of women in three important ways. It would deprive women of comprehensive health insurance coverage, eliminate emergency life-saving protections, undermine health care benefits in the Affordable Care Act. For the first time, private health care insurance coverage for women would be restricted. And so to carry the discussion further and from a very important perspective, my good friend from New York, Carol Maloney, also a tireless fighter for the rights of all people, a leader in the area of choice and women's rights. Let me yield the floor to Carol Maloney. Congressman Maloney, you have the floor now.
Thank you, Congressman Ellison, who is the chair of the Progressive Caucus. Thank you for your leadership on this and in so many other areas. And thank you for having this special order on this disturbing vote that took place today in the Congress. There's no question, and there can be no debating the fact that the bill that the Republican put forward endangers women's health, puts their lives at risk, and intrudes on their constitutionally protected liberties. The bill extends the reach of government more cynically and in a very profoundly disturbing way. And that is why President Obama put out a veto threat on Wednesday that he would veto any bill that would restrict insurers from paying for abortions, saying, in the President's words, it goes too far. And I'd like to quote from the President's statement on this. Long-standing federal policy prohibits federal funds from being used for abortions, except in cases of rape or incest, or when the life of the woman would be endangered. The Affordable Care Act preserved this prohibition and included policies to ensure that federal funding is segregated from any private dollars used to fund abortions for which federal funding is prohibited. So that's very, very clear, and I don't understand why the Republicans forced a vote on this like the other anti-women, anti-choice, anti-respect of a woman's right to choose and her judgment have failed so far in the Senate. So I feel that instead of looking at creating jobs, which is the priority, and the Republican majority has consistently said that jobs and job creation is their priority, but then they spend their time on debating a bill that even their own members admit the President will veto, and it is going nowhere in the Senate. So instead of creating jobs, they remain focused, Mr. Ellison, on creating obstacles for women to access safe, legal, and badly needed health care. This bill, H.R. 358, is an attack on women's access to reproductive health services and our fundamental right to life-saving medical care. It is stunning in its scope, appalling in its indifference, and outrageous in its arrogance. Americans want Congress to create jobs, strengthen the middle class, and find bipartisan consensus. So it's time to end this attack on women and get to work on our top priority, or what should be our top priority, creating jobs. And this bill is just another attempt to keep women down and back and not to protect their constitutional rights and access to the health care that they feel they deserve. I thank you for organizing this. I yield back to our chairman.
Congresswoman Maloney, I wonder if you would yield for a question?
Absolutely.
The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists wrote, in order for women to receive the best health care and disease prevention, they must have access to all medically appropriate legal medical procedures, regardless of the ability to pay. The American College of Gynecologists and Obstetricians opposes legislative proposals to limit women's access to any needed medical care. These proposals can jeopardize the health and safety of our patients and government, and put government between a physician and a patient. My question to you is, this bill, H.R. 358, the very deceptively titled Protect Life Act, does this bill have scientific and medical backing behind it as the opposition to this bill has? In other words, do they have trained medical professionals operating on the basis of science supporting their position? I yield to the gentlelady.
No, they do not. In fact, the scientists and the medical professions all support access to all medically appropriate legal medical procedures. There are sometimes when the fetus is not, could not live or has died and is in jeopardy for causing literally the destruction of organs or even death of the woman. So this is, I would say, is a life-taking bill from the health and welfare. And this bill also allows hospitals to deny life-saving care. This is a big change in our values and our procedures in this country. And I want to point out very importantly, Mr. Chairman, that at the same time they are restricting reproductive choices, Republicans are limiting access to family planning and primary care, and by their efforts to defund Planned Parenthood, which provides, is the primary care provider to most women for their basic health in this country. And these actions I would label just plain too extreme.
Well, you know, the gentlelady has been very eloquent about the assault on women's health. If you don't mind, given that you are a member of the Joint Economic Committee, which is a bicameral committee, bipartisan committee, I think, in the Congress, I wonder if you don't mind talking with me just a little while about the assault on women's economic prospects. In your opinion, Congressman Maloney, how will assaults to and cuts to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security impact women, given that women statistically live longer than men and have a greater representation for use of those important programs? Are we seeing the not just the health but also the economic viability of women under threat as well, as we see important programs that women rely on disproportionately cut into? I yield to the gentlelady.
It is true that women disproportionately rely on government programs, and regrettably, women are the largest segment, older women are the largest segment of people living in poverty. So the discrimination that has existed in pay, there is still, for over 30 years, an unexplained gap between men and women, the pay gap, well over 20%, and this then translates into your Social Security, less Social Security, less pension, and the need for Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare to help women. And also, a lot of women that are around the age of 55, when their spouses die and they've been stay-at-home mothers and wives, they lose the coverage that their husbands have. And there is a gap that's not there until they reach Medicare age of 65. So they rely disproportionately on these safety net programs. So any cuts, and I hear from my constituents, and I know that you do too, that they say, I can't absorb another cut to my Medicare, I can't absorb a cut to my Social Security, and I believe that's one reason why Democrats have fought so hard to keep that safety net in place for working men and women in our country. I yield back.
Well, I appreciate the gentlelady shedding some light on this issue, because the fact is that today we were looking at a bill that would restrict women's health care access. But you would know that we have been trying to fend off assaults on the viability of women's economic situation. We still know that women earn about 80 cents for every dollar men make. This is unexplained, or it is explained. It's explained by gender discrimination. And I think it's important for even men to take account of this important fact, that if your wife or partner is being discriminated against in the workplace because she's a woman, then your total family income is being hurt because of sex discrimination in the workplace. It's important that men and women come together to fight these attacks on women's rights, because even though the direct victim of this kind of discrimination are women, this invariably hurts the entire family, and so this is everybody's business to stand up for the rights of all people. I tell you, one of the things that really concerns me is this gap in pay between men and women. The median weekly women earn about 81.2% of what men earn. In addition to that, they have assaults on their access to health care. When you add these things up, you know, what does this mean in terms of the majority's commitment to women's rights? What does it all add up to? I wonder if the gentlelady might offer her views on this subject. I yield to the gentlelady.
Well, I think all of those efforts, whether it's the Pitts bill that passed today, I think it's a very dangerous bill. It threatens women's ability to even purchase private health insurance that includes abortion coverage with their own money.
Their own money.
And codifies broad and troubling conscience provisions. And it's another attempt to unravel the health care law while at the same time expanding anti-choice laws that will harm women's health. That's an anti-woman agenda that just passed this great body. And when you talk about the assaults on programs that women disproportionately rely on, it is another step that will keep women down and back. And I'm proud of the Democrats for standing up for women and children and families. You rightfully pointed out that when you discriminate against a woman, you discriminate against her husband and her children. And you and I know that it takes two working parents, sometimes two jobs by each parent, to pay the bills and keep the food on the table. So these are very serious concerns and ways that we need to fight back and stand up for the women of America.
Now, Congresswoman Maloney, I know you